Okay, good to see everybody. We are in the pod studio tonight.
Yes,
This is still the sweat.
Yes.
We don't have a prompter. So this thing is
teleprompter.
This thing's gonna go way off the rails tonight. Your name's still Jessie. I know that. My name's still Emerson.
I see you have an umbrella prop here.
It's raining outside. I need to do something with my hands.
Okay, well,
I'm weird like that.
We are also joined by DK Live's Reed Fowler. He's here. He's in the room with us. I'm really not sure what this shot looks. Okay, it's a single shot.
It's only going to be Reed Fowler or Steve Buchanan tonight. So
Yeah.
Hopefully you like both of them.
Well, that's called Panel A for all of you people out there.
We know that we like
done.
you, so this is great. Okay,
This does have a podcast feel to it.
Yeah.
It's a sweat podcast.
It's already going to
Can
be
you
10
just put the umbrella down? I don't.
It's going to be 10 times better than the
All right, thank
Panel
you,
B
Mary
podcast.
Poppins. Anyway, Reed, time for What Are the Odds? NFC Division Winners. So who will take the division crowns in the NFC? Let's talk NFC East first, right off the bat here. It feels like this is just really like a two-team race here.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when you have the Washington team at plus 1,200, the Giants do present some upside in, one-off games, I think, with Dallas, with what's happening with Ezekiel Elliott. We know that Amari Cooper is dealing with some injuries. They still have a great offensive line. That team has a young defense, and so there's a lot of promise for Dallas, a lot of question marks coming into it. But when you look at this, it's Philadelphia, right? It's Philadelphia all the way. The Eagles, one of the better teams in the NFC, just not only in the NFC in their division, but in their conference and in the entire league. So when you just look at this number at minus 125, you never want to lay money to gain money, but if there is a long shot, it is Dallas because injuries can happen. It's just the juice on any of these one or two teams is not that much. I'm not too inclined to think that Dallas is really going to overtake Philadelphia.
Should they even have the second best odds with no Zeke right now?
Yeah, because when you look at the Giants and you look at Washington.
Redskins, jeez.
Hey, chill. I'm just trying to fill time.
They really don't have a real path to success. And when you just look at the longevity, when is Daniel Jones coming into the game? Or when is he going to start in this season? I'm guessing around week 7, week 6 is right around where I think Daniel Jones starts his career as the quarterback for the New York Football Giants.
Ooh, but he's on a short leash. Huh?
But when you look at Dallas, look, they have a lot of things that you can have some promise about. They got Kellen Moore there as their offensive coordinator. He was back up there, and at Boise State, where he was a quarterback, they ran a pretty creative offense. And so you're getting excited. You just want all the other stuff, the holdouts, the injuries to subside. And Dallas, if there is one that can take off the Eagles, it will be Dallas.
The NFC North, one of these teams is not like the others. Looking at this, Chicago, the favorite. I mean, Green Bay, Minnesota, they're not very far behind. I mean, I'm excited to see some of these division games. And then Detroit, hello down there. But you think Chicago is the favorite for a reason?
Green Bay.
This is actually the most difficult division. It always has been, in my opinion, when you look at just winning. Who's going to win and who's the best, right? You have Minnesota, Chicago, and Green Bay, all with viable shots. Green Bay probably, in my estimation, is the least. When you look at Green Bay, and it's a lot like Dallas, too, these teams are very public when it comes to sports betting, when it comes to just pick-em games, what have you. People look at Green Bay, people look at Dallas, the same way we look at Tiger Woods in golf, the same way we look at the Lakers in basketball. You have a lot of this public money coming in on these popular teams. When you look at Green Bay, although they do have some things to be excited about, and you coach Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best quarterbacks.
Doesn't even sound like Rodgers likes him.
Well, it sounds like he's okay. He's okay with him right now. But look at the coaching staffs and look at the quarterback and coach relationship in that division specifically. Do we think that Matt Stafford and Matt Patricia are best friends? Maybe or maybe not. Do we think that, in Minnesota, that Mike Zimmer and then
Kirk Cousins,
like how much of a shorter or long leash does Kirk Cousins have with Mike Zimmer? I mean, he's been a 500 type quarterback in his career with Minnesota so far, and they paid $84 million guaranteed to this quarterback, and they're not necessarily a team that right now we can easily say that they're a Super Bowl contending team. They have all the makings of it, a strong defense, but this one's really tough. I would think that I think Minnesota at plus 210 is very enticing because if things fall where they do and Dalvin Cook stays healthy, that defense stays healthy, when you look at what they want to do with Dalvin Cook and that run team and control the ball, I think at plus 210 is very, very enticing. But Chicago, when you look at this team,
man, that defense is
strong. When you look at Jacksonville when they were really good at defense, when you look at Denver back in 2017, even Seattle in 2015, where they were the number 1 defenses, the following year they still sat within the top 10. Jacksonville, again, is someone that we think too, right? Just talking about defenses that could make that leap. So when you're looking at these division matchups, defenses can really sway these 50-50 games. So that's why I like Minnesota as at plus 210 there.
You know why I like Green Bay is because I saw the video of all those guys today dressed up as the characters from Happy Gilmore. And you had Aaron Rodgers as the mean nursing home guy.
Who was played by?
Ben Stiller.
There we go.
That's right. Yeah, how about a warm glass of shut the hell up, Reed?
Oh, wow.
Okay, shut the heck up. Shut the heck up.
It's a line from the movie. Thank you. They agree with me in the back.
Let's move on to the NFC South. Got New Orleans minus 167, heavy favorites there. You got Atlanta plus 320, Carolina plus 550, Tampa Bay plus 1100.
Hello down there. Yeah, no, I mean, and this again is probably a one-team race. I think it's very enticing, and I'll talk about the Bucs in a little bit. That team has some promise there, but when you talk about the Saints, I mean, these guys, how many years does Drew Brees have left? And that's really where I think that the Saints are in a win-now mode. We saw their defense change from the first half of last year, being extremely bad at defense, and especially in DFS that we wanted to attack, to their defense and their secondary really shaping up and being a strong defense towards the end of the season. They should have been in the Super Bowl, right? It should not have been the Rams. They should have been in the Super Bowl. That was a pass interference call. And things, if they fell where they would have fallen and they scored, this team would have been a Super Bowl contending team. And that wasn't the case. So I think when you look at this year, like they've won 40% in this division of the last decade. So the last 10 years, they've won this division. Carolina's won it a couple times. Atlanta clearly has won it a couple times as well. But the Saints, when you look at what they've been able to do, I just think that their defense, and all of these teams, all 4 of these teams, are a QB injury away of being a sub-500 team.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, at halfway in 2018, Panthers were 6-2. Looked like, they could have gone to the Super Bowl, and then you had that neck injury from Cam Newton. So, I mean, if he had stayed healthy, though, don't we think that the Panthers could have been right in this mix?
Absolutely.
He still has health questions right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all signs are pointing to that he is going to be okay for Week 1, and Ron Rivera is saying absolutely he's doing his rehab correctly. He's on track for Week 1, but you're absolutely right. Look, if the Drew Brees is getting older, and Cam Newton, when you just look at what's happened with Andrew Luck, we look at what's happened with other guys, Doug Baldwin, Gronk, all of these guys citing that injuries have cut their career short. Like Drew Brees has been, lucky or good in terms of his longevity, but all of these teams, even Matt Ryan to an extent, like these guys don't have solid backups. When you look at the best backups in the league, Jacoby Brissett is probably a decent, one of the top backups that we have in the NFL.
From the Patriot way, that's why.
Right, and so when you look at these teams, I think the Saints are still looking as the best team, but the Atlanta maybe, but it's going to be the Saints.
Let's go to the NFC West. $1 million question with all these teams. Let's see. With the Rams, is Todd Gurley healthy? Can he play all 16 games? With Seattle, besides Tyler Lockett, who are the top targets for Russell Wilson? Can the offensive line protect its franchise quarterback? San Francisco, is Jimmy Garoppolo any good? In Arizona, who are they going to select with the first overall pick in the 2020 draft? Okay, so the Rams, heavy favorites here.
Sure.
But who is the best bet right now?
I mean, the best bet is probably Seattle,
yeah,
right, in terms of what value you're getting at plus 275. But sure, I mean, the Rams, as the reigning NFC champs, went to the Super Bowl, didn't perform that well at all.
God, it was garbage.
Yeah, it was garbage. I mean, we all watched it together.
Yes, we did. All three of us watched that game together.
Yeah, everyone cares.
Coley was there.
Yeah,
your dog was there.
Cares. Yeah. But look, like this team, when you look at this, we don't know what San Francisco is. Like, what's happening with the 49ers? We have no idea. Dante Pettis is out there, who is their number one. I'm getting a little bit into the fantasy side of it. He's been in the preseason games all the way to the fourth quarter. And when you look at the running backs, they're dealing with injuries in terms of what they want to do. And so we don't necessarily know what San Francisco's identity is right now and how well Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play. Seattle with Darren Bevel, with Schottenheimer. I'm just going to say his last name.
I'll help you. I'll Google it.
It's when you look at that team, right, they're set. They know their identity. It's to run first. It's to play solid defense, even though they're middle of the pack. And really, like, the target Tyler Lockett, give Chris Carson the ball, and control the clock. That's what they want to do. That's what Seattle's always done in the past. And so
Brian Schottenheimer.
I'm thinking of his dad,
that.
Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah, obviously a legend.
But when you look at this, I think it has to go to the Rams until further notice. But best bet, if you wanted to, I think Seattle is something that because we just don't know. We don't know what the other two teams are. And Arizona's, I mean, they're going to have one of the worst defenses in the league, if not actually Tampa Bay.
Okay.
And Miami.
Okay, well, we're going to have you back for more football as the show goes on, because you're one of only 2 guests on our show tonight, which is really exciting. But baseball and Steve Buchanan are coming up next.
Hi there, I'm Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Remember how Carly Lloyd broke the internet last week? The United States women's national team star nailed a 55-yard field goal at an Eagles and Ravens joint practice in Philadelphia. 1 week goes by, Lloyd is seriously considering playing in the NFL. Her longtime trainer, James Gelanis, told Fox Sports Lloyd is getting multiple phone calls about serious interest from teams. In his latest public comments, Gelanis told ESPN, if she's going to do this, she'll do it. She'll train in the offseason. She'll get herself ready so that she just doesn't do it for the sake of doing it. So, 2020, legitimate timetable for the 2-time gold medalist. Gelanis even mentioned to Fox an unnamed team had offered to add Lloyd to the game day roster Thursday night for the final preseason game for a chance to kick. But her attention is on the red, white, and blue as the U.S. women's national team's 5-game victory tour continues. They, too, play Thursday night against Portugal in Philly.
Welcome back to The Sweat. Jessie, Coffield, Emerson, Lotzia. We are in the pod studio, so new look right now. It's not permanent, though. Don't worry. We are joined now.
I like it in here.
Where you just... I don't know. You just like being so close to everyone.
I do, because I can touch you and Steve.
Okay. Steve Buchanan's here, as I was just going to say. DK Live Steve Buchanan here for some MLB Chaser Fade. So agree or disagree with the following statements about tonight's 11-game MLB slate.
Not quite 15 like last night, Steve, but 11. Right. So just 4 fewer games. First question I have for you. Indians, Twins. 2 of the bigger road favorites on the night. Okay, so Chaser Fade. The Indians in Detroit are actually in a better spot than the Twins in Chicago against the White Sox.
I'm still going to go with the Twins on this one. Look, if there's one thing the Twins do very well, see, I don't know, should I look at the camera or should I look at you?
You can do whatever you want.
It's a
we're so close to each other. I'm going to look at both. Look at the viewers, look at you. Very
it's
conversational.
Like reading at mass. Look at the words and look up to the congregation.
I really like the Twins in this spot. When they're facing lefties, they've been one of the best offenses in the entire league. I mean, they lead with home runs with 77, which is 7 more than the Dodgers. And you know how good the Dodgers have been. And then they're facing Detweiler, who's just been, I don't know, he goes on the mound and they call him a starting pitcher, but it's like, just because you have a title doesn't mean that's actually what you do. Because he goes out there, he's averaging 2.8 home runs over 9 innings, which is just absolutely horrific. 15 through 47 in the 3rd inning so far this season. So he's just been a complete total mess on the mound, and now he's facing one of the best offenses in the league against lefties. So I got to side with the Twins on this one. But it's very close. It is very close for both sides.
Okay, so Red Sox Rockies total is set at 13.5. They hit that last night, but 8 of the runs were scored in the last 3 innings. So Chaser Fade that they go under that total tonight. I mean, I read on your article that you actually like this one with Peter Lambert on the mound for the Rockies.
Well, see, the nice thing about when you bet, it doesn't matter if the runs come in the 1st inning, in the 4th inning, in the 7th inning. As long as it hits, that's all we care about.
Yeah.
So we care about when they hit today. No, we don't. We just care that it actually hits. So, you got to love the Red Sox in this start. Peter Lambert, he's another guy, like starting pitcher. But when he's pitching at Coors Field, he's
Air
averaging
quotes.
just under 4 runs allowed per start at Coors Field, which is not very good at all. And then you look at his numbers: 373 WOBA, 5.61 xFIP at Coors Field. I mean, look, the Red Sox are pretty much out of the playoff contention, but they still have a very, very good offense. And Peter Lambert has not shown at any point this season that he can handle an opposing major league team. So I think the Red Sox are just going to go off again in this spot here. I mean, when Jackie Bradley Jr. is launching third-deck home runs.
478 stinking feet for crying out loud.
That was
it's
just
like the longest Red Sox home run in the StatCast era, which is what, like 3 years or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, small sample, but
yes,
we'll take
it is
it.
a small sample, but who would have thought JBJ would hit the top of that list?
Dude, that thing was an absolute missile. Like, I don't even think the outfielders moved. They were just like, cool. Like, we're at Coors Field.
We talked about it last night, though, on the show. We kind of expected the Red Sox to go off against a guy making his MLB debut, for crying out loud.
Yeah, they just
at Coors Field.
They keep, like, I don't know what it is with the Rockies. Like, they keep bringing up these kids, and they're like, hey, your first start's going to be at Coors Field.
Against, like,
good
a
luck.
monster lineup.
Yeah, here comes the Dodgers, or here comes the Red Sox. Like, have at it,
They're
dude.
like, good luck. We just want to see how you'll react to this.
It only gets better from this point, we promise.
Imagine if the Red Sox played in that ballpark all the time, in Coors Field.
It's
that offense.
Like, guys,
they would hit seriously, literally over 20,000 home runs.
Well,
That
see, that's
is
the
not
thing
true.
too,
In a
because
season.
but it's true though in a sense, because like the Rockies at home are this huge offense, but when they go on the road, they're actually one of the worst in the league. Offensively, when you look at their statistics, like they're actually a team to pick on when they're away from Coors Field. So it's true that it just you throw a guy in at Coors Field and all of a sudden he hits 25 home runs. It happens.
Okay, so again, just to go back to the answer, you are fading that the under hits tonight.
Oh, there's no chance it hits the
we're
under.
going
No
with
chance.
over.
Nope.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Let's go to some defense here. High strikeout total tonight, 8.5 for the Astros. Garrett Cole here. Let's see. He's had double-digit Ks in 6 of his last 10 starts. So Chaser fade that he once again goes over this total.
So we like Justin Verlander hitting it last night, but we still don't have robot umpires. So they actually tossed Verlander from the game last night.
That's right. I saw you tweeting about
Right,
that too.
right. I'm all for robot umps. Okay, not these divas behind the plate.
Like
who,
like Angel Hernandez. Good grief.
I mean,
His
there's
strike
something.
zone is.
There's something a little more going on there. You can go into the rabbit hole on the internet and figure out about that
All
one.
right, so let's answer this
Right.
question.
But Garrett Cole, I mean, look, he leads the league in K percentage for all starting pitchers in the majors right now at 37.3%. The Rays really aren't normally a team you would go and try to pick on when it comes to strikeouts. They hang out about league average, but again, we're talking about an elite pitcher who has elite strikeout upside with Garrett Cole here. You mentioned how many strikeouts he's had, double digits, 6 of his last 10, I think you said here.
Yes, I did say
If there's
that.
ever anybody, a guy you're going to throw a bet on to go over their projected strikeout total, Cole would definitely be one of those guys there. 8.5 is a big total because when you really think about it, we need him to hit 9 strikeouts, which on a normal basis is tough. But with someone like Cole, we've seen him do it quickly. We've seen him do it often. So I have no problem taking Cole in this spot here. The Rays are a much better team against righties than they are lefties, but I still think Cole gets it done here in this spot.
Okay, good work, Steve.
Thanks,
we
dude.
love having you in here. You're going to be in here a lot more, okay?
I'm so ready.
Tonight you're
Reed
gonna
coming
be here a lot
back
more.
for NFL High or Low on the way. But right now, we're going to toss it over to the Pat Mayo Experience as Pat and the crew are going to give you some strategy on how to pick a pivot play in football.
The way that I've always tried to think about pivoting off of a chalkier player onto someone else who's in the same price range, even if they're a bit lower projected, but still within the range of outcomes, obviously. You don't want to pivot off a good player onto an objectively bad player. That's not a good idea whatsoever. Although I've done it, which is why I'm not super successful all the time. But I always like to think of it in the fact is if you have, let's say, a Nick Chubb is going to be 20% owned, and that's where the projection comes in. And someone like Joe Mixon is going to be 5% owned. The way that I would like to think of it is Nick Chubb going to outscore Joe Mixon 4 out of 5 times in this scenario? Drew, is that an interesting way to think about it? Is that how you should be thinking about it?
That's exactly the way to think about it, Pat. You've got it figured out. You basically, you're getting paid 2 different prices on a player every single week. There's the price DraftKings lists, and then there's the price that the field is applying to that player in terms of ownership. And so when you're first making your lineups, what everybody in DFS has figured out over the years is the first thing to figure out is how many fantasy points can they score to be worth that price. The second thing to figure out is how much of an advantage do they create over the field based on that price and the ownership they have associated with them. So your way of thinking about it is the perfect way. In that scenario, does Nick Chubb outscore Joe Mixon more than 4 times the frequency. And if the answer in your head is no, then the better play is Joe Mixon.
Mike, what do you use in terms of what Vegas gives you as information, whether it be on game totals, the spreads, and you utilize that when trying to initially do your research and project your players?
Yeah, so Vegas is a big part of our initial projections because that team total, not only does it flow down into the individual, touchdown projections and field goal projections for players, but one, you can customize that if you think Vegas is off, and you can see where the market might be wrong and the fantasy players that they like, where if you raise the team total on Cincinnati from 18 to 22 and Joe Mixon all of a sudden is a really good play, and people aren't going to play him, you can use Vegas in that manner. It's a very good median expectation to set to get this initial feel for where guys should project, but then you can also use it as a way to figure out where the market may or may not be right. I will say I do like to follow line movement a little bit throughout the week. I don't go overboard because, in general, our projections are adjusting to the line. The team total and the line also feeds into some of the other back-end team metrics that we project, run pass percentage, just total teams plays, total team efficiency, the spread and the line, or the spread and the team total feed into that a little bit. So, but that's more of a nuanced type thing. But as the line shifts throughout the week, if I see a huge shift in a line, it might just kind of trigger something to double check, that total dropped 4 points. Is this quarterback healthy, even though they say he's going to play? Maybe he's playing and he's hurt, that sort of thing. It just makes you sort of double check. It's a way to, reevaluate and make sure you're not missing something when you see a pretty big line change towards the tail end of the week.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Sweat. Jessie and Emerson still here with you, and Steve Buchanan has left the pod studio. So now we have Reed T. Fowler in, which means we are talking football right now. Looks like we are going to do some NFL high or low, updating some key ADP rankings, kind of the fallout from the Andrew Luck news. Jessie, you have question number 1.
Yeah, question number 1, trending upwards this season. We got Deshaun Watson now at QB2. I mean, seems like that's a little high for this guy, given what's going on with the Texans offensive line.
That's a big part and really good point there, Jessie. Coffield, not Emerson. Look, I think when you just look at fantasy in general, we saw what Watson did last year with the same offensive line. I think they led the league in sacks given up to the quarterback position. Houston did. And really nothing has changed, right? Not a lot has changed since then. What has changed, though, is that we get Will Fuller back, hopefully, we don't know how long, and we get Duke Johnson out of the backfield with that trade that they made before Lamar Miller went down with that injury. So when you look at the guys that are behind Deshaun Watson, especially in my rankings, but just in general, right? The consensus that Aaron Rodgers is at number 3, and then you could say Baker Mayfield and some other guys at number 4. You got to just like what they have in their division that they play in, what these guys are going to be able to play with. You have the number 1 receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. You have a pass-catching back that we saw a 3-down roll back when Duke Johnson was with Miami. And we know what this guy's talent is when he's catching passes out of the backfield. So, yeah, when you look at who's trending up, I think it has to be Deshaun Watson just because of what he has. And then the other guys, there are question marks. There's going to be question marks with all of the quarterbacks that we have in the top 5. But I will say this, a lot of the guys that come into the top 10 with the quarterbacks usually get drafted or are ranked outside the top 20 to begin the season. So guys like Jameis Winston, Kyler Murray, who's, in that QB 14-15, Lamar Jackson, these guys who have been drafted outside of their, the top 10 ADPs that are going in those mid-rounds, those mid-teen rounds, like 14-15, they have a big shot at getting inside the top 10.
I mean, Deshaun Watson at one point couldn't even go on the team plane last year.
Right, was it
because
a lacerated kidney?
He got hit so many times.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
he's
they're
on a
like,
bus.
we're going to put him on a 12-hour bus ride because his lung's going to explode if we put him on this airplane.
That's miserable.
I mean, that's how much he was getting hit.
Right. Yeah. And what you hear, too, is that, that's happened to Deshaun Watson, and he was going on a bus, so why couldn't Andrew Luck do it? There's 2 different stories, right?
Let him do what they want to do.
2 different stories.
He's not feeling it, he's not feeling it.
Yeah, don't compare apples to apples with that. But, yeah, Deshaun Watson's a tough guy. I think you have to move him up. And who knows? With Clowney going, somewhere, he's getting traded. If they acquire some other talent on the offensive side, There's been like Kenyon Drake has been in that conversation. Kenny Stills. If they had another weapon on that offense, it's just more for Deshaun Watson.
I mean, we know Marlon Mack is going to be impacted here. ADP now, I believe, of 22, RB 22, falling behind the likes of Devontae Freeman and Chris Carson. Too high or too low? It's a guy I know you have on one of your fantasy teams.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's there's two factions of thought in terms of Marlon Mack. You can easily take what happened last year and superimpose it to what's going to happen this year. I think with the Colts, and you just look at their over-unders in terms of win total for the season, it was close to 9 at some places, and now it's down to 6. Their expected scoring is probably a touchdown less than what it would have been with Luck, now with Brissett. So when you look at that, Marlon Mack was so touchdown dependent. Back last season, he scored 10 touchdowns, and you like the amount of touchdown percentage or rate that the Colts were going to have. The things that don't change is that offensive line is great. Right, the things that don't change is that Jacoby Brissett has been there for 2.5 years.
They wanted to make him a 3-down back too.
Right,
correct?
And if you look at the end of the season, what happens between weeks 1 through 9, completely different than what happened with Marlon Mack when he came back, is that he was, especially in the playoffs, he was a 3-down back. So now if the Colts are looking at this and saying, we want Marlon Mack, especially what they saw in the preseason, where he was running routes, he was in on all third downs. I think in preseason week 2, and 1 4th down, and got it targeted, just one, from Jacoby Brissett. That is something that you can find value in, because yes, Devonta Freeman, Chris Carson is a target that everyone should be looking at in rounds 4. But there's question marks with all these running backs.
He sounds like he's a great value at
if he's slipping at rounds 4 or 5, I think when you're looking at your and if you went running back right early, I mean, this guy, take a flyer on this guy, because he's still really talented.
Yep, good thing Steve Buchanan is going to draft my team for me.
Good stuff. Chris Godwin, wide receiver 20 around Kenny Golladay to end Tyler Lockett. Is that too high or too low? I mean,
go ahead.
He's going to be competing with Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, 4 touches, and he's in an offense that has Jameis Winston as their centerpiece there.
Love it, dude.
Love
Johnny
it. I think
Crab Legs.
Got to give it to Emerson. Always make this show really authentic. Look, Jameis, I think, is going to take a huge step. And I think when you look at where he's being drafted, he's being undrafted in most of these leagues. I think he has a real shot at finishing inside the top 10 and lead the league in passing yards. If you just look at Bruce Arians and what he's been able to do, it's been fantastic. But going to Chris Godwin, I think this is way too low. I mean, Kenny Golladay and Tyler Lockett, yes, there is a lot of hype on both, right? Godwin and Tyler Lockett. But if I had the choice between these 3, I'm taking Godwin 100 times out of 100. If you just look at what Arians has done with that slot position, whether it be Hines Ward or Larry Fitzgerald, this guy could easily get 100 targets this season and over 100 receptions. And when you look at wide receiver 1s, and you just look at what the Cardinals and Arians has said, he said that this guy's not going to come off the field. That he could play in the slot, he could play outside, he's going to be targeted, and it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he gets between 90 to 100 catches. So when a coach comes out and says that about a player, and we saw in the preseason that every single snap that Winston was on the field, Godwin didn't come off. He played every single snap, courtesy of Adam Levitan, a friend of the show, that this guy can easily be targeted. Now, 3rd or 4th round, I think 4th round is where he's usually going. If you're feeling bullish on this guy, you got to pick him up in the 3rd round, because he's probably going early 4th.
All right, good stuff. We have run out of time. We don't have time to talk about Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle, but they're screwed anyway. Trust me, people. Who knows how the hell the Colts are going to distribute the ball. Anyway, so we're going to have you back for some head-to-head sportsbook matchups. Who's going to have the most regular season wins? Steve's back first to talk baseball after our latest edition of Who's at Bat.
We'll play a game of Who's at Bat. We will show you some silhouettes of famous batting stances, current players and past players. There have been some managers and players in the game today who have taken place in this. You're going to tell us who they belong to. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. I hope I don't have to put my glasses on to really see this. I should be good.
All right. Well, we'll start with player number 1.
That's just player number 1 is just any player. That's any
So
player.
he's a first-time All-Star this year. He was last year's NL Rookie of the Year. Acuna, correct.
Ronald Acuna.
There you go. I mean, I'll give you some clues.
You know what?
I'll
I've
help
talked
you.
about the fact that he's got just an absolute classic stance.
And you see him quite a bit in the National League East. Let's go to the next one.
That looks like Robbie Cano.
Not quite.
No?
He played
so
20 years with the Padres.
Hall of Famer, Padre?
That's true, yes.
Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn.
Okay.
Whole career with the Padres.
That was partial swing. That's why I was thinking it was Cano. That was already in his swing. He really beat up and down, old Tony.
Silhouette number 3.
Yikes. Mickey Tettleton.
No, you're 1 for 3 now. Still batting over 300. He actually played for the Dodgers. He still plays for the Dodgers, but longer than your 1 year. Bellinger. There you go. Tight race.
Okay, so you're going more with current. Do you remember Mickey Tettleton when he stood like that?
No, I'm a 92 kid.
He got his bat. He got a little bit odd with that one. He looks like that.
All right, this player here, a teammate of yours in 03, in America, because you played for the Yankees and the Expos in 03.
Teammate of mine in 03. Jeez. Okay, so what's the remaining hits on that one?
He played in the infield, made a transition to outfield afterwards. Led off for your Yankees in 03.
Alfonso Soriano.
There you go.
Gosh darn, yeah. Should have known by the bat. I used his bat on occasion, and actually homered with it in my first at bat as a Yankee with that bat that you see right there.
All right, let's go to this last one. This is probably the toughest one.
This is either, is this a current player or is this me?
It is not a current player.
And it's not me?
No, it's you. I wanted to see if you changed your mind.
I'm used to my hands being a little lower than that. I must have been trying something new. I was probably struggling at the time, so I tried to bring my hands up a little bit.
We really appreciate how into it you're getting here, so we'll give you a special bonus question from our friend, the batting stance guy.
All right, very good. That looks like Gary Sheffield right there.
That's right. You missed out playing with Chef by just 1 year. He was with the Braves.
We played against each other 100,000 times, including he signed and came immediately to I think it was Beloit to the Brewers, and I was in the Midwest League, and I think I actually saw him for one of his first at bats in pro ball. I was catching, and I'm like, oh, this kid's got a chance.
And you learned that stance right from the get-go.
Yeah, he did.
Todd Zeile, SNY commentator, thanks so much for your time. And, hey, enjoy the rest of the season. Hopefully the Mets keep this thing interesting.
I would love to see that. I'd love to be talking about them in October. Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome back to The Sweat.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Emerson. Did you want to say something after we decided who would talk first during the break?
Nope.
Okay. This is The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. Steve Buchanan is joining us now. We're going back to baseball.
Yay,
MLB Price Check is here. So do you like these players' prices for tonight's slate? You know the drill.
11.
Now you can talk.
Thank you, Mom. So top 3 starters, Cole, Scherzer, Syndergaard. Good grief, they're going to cost you some money. And I know you teased me during the break. Maybe one of the guys are going to fade. But the question I have for you, a couple dudes in the 9K range. So we have Jake Odorizzi, 9.4, Kyle Hendricks, 9,100. Any interest in them? How much interest do you have in those two guys over the big 3?
Yeah, so I actually, I'm pretty down with using Jake Odorizzi here, going against the White Sox. You know, this will be the 3rd time that he's faced him this season. In the 2 prior starts that he has faced him, he struck out 15 through 10 in the 3rd inning, so he's striking out over a batter per inning against this team. Only 3 runs allowed. Try to say that 3 times fast.
Nice.
In his 2 starts against them, and then he's averaging 22 DK fantasy points. So Hendricks is a nice option, but he's one of those guys that can be total boomer bust. Like, he doesn't have a ton of strikeout potential. He's been on a really good run this season, but his salary seems to be a bit higher than what he normally would be. So for that reason alone, I'd probably stay away from him. So I think Odorizzi is definitely a good option here tonight.
Yeah, his salary is up big time. He was 7,700 against the White Sox.
That's
last
what
time
I'm talking about.
You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden he's 9,400.
Like, calm down, buddy. Okay, you're not that great.
Yeah, well, he's talking about Jake, not me.
He's not the one who makes the salary. So, I think it could go either way. 3 guys over 4,500 at second base: Mac Muncy at 49, Altuve 48, and Jeff McNeil at 45. Do you like any of those guys? You gonna look somewhere else?
So with how this slate is kind of constructed, I think this is actually a really good position to save some salary because there's so many other positions you want to pay up for, like outfield, first base. So I like to use second base as a position to pay down for, and a perfect example of that is with Jason Kipnis going against the Tigers, and more specifically Jordan Zimmerman. Jordan Zimmerman has not been good at all at any point of the season, but he's specifically bad at Comerica Park. Like, I don't know what happens when he gets home. Like, you think like the home field advantage would like hype him up or whatever. Like, he turns into a puddle when he's at home. And then you have
should be the complete opposite of
exactly.
that.
Like, the hometown crowd should be hyping you up. Instead they're
like
getting in his head. But now we got Kipnis batting 5th tonight, which is always a good value here at 3,700. At Comerica Park, Zimmerman has a 324 WOBA, 1.90. I'm sorry, 324 WOBA for Kipnis, 198 ISO against righty so far this season. So absolutely down with Kipnis in this spot. What is so funny?
Oh, well, it was like our knees touched under the desk.
Oh, that's cute.
And then Emerson stared at me for 5 minutes, and I was like, what?
I was going to say, like, Kipnis is not that funny.
This is like 5th grade. Let's talk about some of the big bats. Let's see. Over 5K.
Yes.
Bats at third, over 5K. Devers, Sano, Rendon, Arenado. Is it worth spending up on any of these guys, or do you go somewhere else and spend elsewhere?
Yeah, so this is one of the positions I do want to spend up for, and Miguel Sano is the one that really sticks out for me here against Ross Detweiler, who we were talking about earlier, and how good the Twins are against lefties. I mean, Miguel Sano just absolutely smashes lefties. He's got a 394 WOBA, 341 isolated power, 8 of his 26 home runs of the year. The Twins are one of my favorite stacks on this slate here, so it makes sense to kind of have one of the guys there that really hits left-handed pitches very, very well, and Sano is that guy. But there's so many ways that you can actually pay up at this position that, like Arenado, like you said, Devers, both of those guys in really good spots too as well. So I would definitely highly recommend spending up at third base. This is definitely not one of the positions I'd want to go cheapo on.
Yeah, I'm looking at Devers though, man. He's got 2 goose egg performances in his last 3 games.
But then he's got like 20 games with at least 10
I was going to
more.
say, holy crap. Look at
he's
this one
got to
that's
take a break
35
sometimes.
points.
You know, he's like, what,
it's all
22
right. It's
years
baseball.
old?
There's 300,000 games a season.
Well, we have given you a lot of big names and big budgets to look at, so let's talk about some value bats, perhaps, here. So any of these guys interest you? Franmil Reyes, 4K. He had 27 DK fantasy points last night.
He's hot.
Justin Smoke, 3,800, had 21 fantasy points last night. Josh Reddick, 18 DK points last night, just 3,100 tonight. And then finally, Addison Russell, he's only 2,800, seems pretty cheap there, but put out 22 DK fantasy points last night. So seems like a lot of value for the price tag.
Take your pick, dude.
So much value. But yeah, I'm going to go with Justin Smoke here. Like, I'm still not a believer that Mike Foltynewicz is kind of back on track here with the Braves. We've seen him be awful shaky in a lot of his starts here, and he struggles against lefties. He's got a 344 WOBA, 5.64 xFIP against them on the season, 10 of his 20 home runs allowed. And that's one of the things, too, is that he struggles with home runs, and Justin Smoke's on one of those runs where once he kind of starts hitting home runs, they just seem to come in bunches here, and he seems like he's on one of those streaks right now. He's averaging 9.1 DK fantasy points over his last 10 games, 4 home runs in that span. So I'm going to pick up on Smoke while he's on his little run here before he goes ice cold again and then just screws everybody, because it seems to happen quite often this season.
All right. That's it for this segment. We're going to have you back in a little bit to talk about chalk, right? Who's going to be the chalky players tonight, and should you eat said chalk or not? Reed is coming back, though, next for a little look at some DK Sportsbook bets. Who's going to have the most regular season wins? Don't talk. I'll keep talking. For now, Paul Shaughnessy is in the PME studios previewing this weekend's UFC bouts in China.
Jessica Andrade taking on Weili Zhang. Jessica Andrade, 8,700 on DraftKings, minus 190 favorite. Zhang is 7,500 and plus 165. When I went back and watched Weili Zhang versus Tisha Torres, I know she's going to have a different game plan for this, but a lot of the situations where she got where she ended up in dominant positions, she utilized her strength in grappling. Now, I guess it's against Torres. She has that advantage, but like that's not an out, I don't think, against Andrade. She'll slam you up on top of your head. So I don't know. Zhang obviously, she's going to have to gain her respect. She likes to throw a lot of spinning stuff. The one big thing is that we're in China, though. So how is Andrade going to react to that? How long has she been over there? I'm not too sure about that. Pick is Andrade, and I feel pretty safe with her, to be perfectly honest. What about you?
Yeah, well, when we broke down Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade, I mean, very clearly, Rose Namajunas has the striking advantage, and we perceive that Andrade would be stronger, more physical. She always comes forward. She's kind of like your boy, John Lineker. She's just ruthless and aggressive, and she's got that maybe a bit of a ground advantage. She slams on her head. You can't predict something like that, but she utilized what she does best versus what Rose does best. But there's no denying that she's getting picked apart in those stand-up exchanges. That's the one thing that worries me against Weili Zhang, is that I bet you she probably is a better striker.
Is she a better striker than Rose, though?
No, definitely not a better striker than Rose.
That's the real question.
Rose is ultra sound, ultra technical, ultra smooth, and she's a little bit taller. She uses her range, right? When you look at Jessica Andrade, she's like 5'2". Everybody she fights is way taller than her. Weili Zhang's only like 5'4", not a whole lot taller than her. But technically, she does throw straighter punches versus Andrade's loopy hooks. But if you look at what is 3 rounds of Andrade versus Tisha Torres, Andrade has like 96 significant strikes and 10 takedowns. She's just relentless. Whereas when you look at Weili Zhang, she got hit a lot against Tisha Torres. It's just ultimately she ends the rounds on top in a dominant position, landing the better ground and pound, and obviously winning the round. She wins that fight, but there's no denying that she doesn't have at least some spots standing where Tisha Torres is nailing her with big shots. To think that Andrade can't do the same thing. Now, listen, this price was like literally yesterday at 165 Andrade, and that is like how could you not take the champion? It's so weird. This is, I think, a testament to the division and its popularity, but Rose wins the title. She's your champion, and she has to go to Brazil to fight the challenger in their home court for her first title defense. Makes no sense. Then you take Andrade is going to come to China for her. So, like, I don't know what's going on here. So maybe you have a fighter in Weili Zhang that's going to step up to the occasion. Maybe it's going to be a close fight. She's got a good cardio. She's got good gas tank. She's able to win those stand-up exchanges. It goes late. Maybe she can win it. And if she is going to win it, I would think it's probably by decision. Also, she's not terrible with her grappling. I mean, we saw her score that armbar submission a few fights back. It's like against Jessica Aguilar. Aguilar's a Ricardo Laborio brown belt. Like, she's been grappling, 10, 15 years. She's been fighting a very long time. And it's the triangle transition to the armbar. Like, this girl's figuring it all out. She's got a late start to MMA, but now she's figuring it all out. She's putting it all together. She's a dangerous challenger. I don't love the price at 190. I loved it at 165. 190 is starting to get a little bit out of hand. So I think you got to go to the champion. The price is starting to get out of hand. I got a feeling by fight time it might be as bad as 210, unless people are having a terrible night and the money starts going the other side because people are chasing dogs. But you're getting a UFC champion that's deservedly so in this spot. A bona fide champion for less than 2-1.
And we're back, everyone. Thank you for watching The Sweat and continuing to, although looks like we just lost 5 followers. That's okay. We are going to go back to football now. Please show Reed on the screen so everyone knows he is here in the studio with us. Let's do some NFL team head-to-head matchups, shall we? So, which teams will have the most regular season wins between these pairs of teams? The following. Jessie, you have the first pair.
Yeah, Saints minus 110 or Rams minus 110. Gonna be a close one. I'm honestly gonna kill you.
That's a weird laugh. Let's cut that part out of this live show. But yeah, it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up here, obviously. But I'm gonna go with the Saints.
Yes.
And the tiebreaker for me is that there's the defense. The defense of the Saints is stronger right now, right? Barring any sort of injury, suspensions, what have you. But look, I mean, when you're the Rams and you deploy this strategy, which worked, right? They got to the Super Bowl, but just one game short, of having these high-profile guys on your team and signing a lot of them, like Aaron Donald, right? Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib. They lost Ndamukong Suh. They lost some of their linebackers like Mark Barron. They now bring in some of these guys just to put in holes. And you look at this, the Saints, that defense has been with each other for a while. And again, even though they weren't that good at the beginning of the season last year, they finished really strong. And look, per Football Outsiders, they finished as a top 10 defense. And look, their team defense was 3rd in rush defense. And when you look at just being able to control the ball, what they want to do, like I said earlier, Drew Brees is on his last leg or a couple more years.
Yeah, but he still looks damn good.
Yeah, unless he's on that TB12 diet. He's got like a DB9 diet that he's going to do.
I will say this, as good as he has looked, some of his best years recently, he puts up all the stats, but his team doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, when you go down the list of the coaching, the offense, special, everything matches up pretty closely, and that's why these teams met.
Kamara better than Gurley?
And there's an honest conversation. I'd say right now, production-wise for fantasy, I'd go Kamara.
Yes, me
but
too.
Gurley, like I said, if that knee holds up and the health holds up, this guy is clearly one of the best running backs. And so from top to bottom, both these teams are strong, but I'm going to go with the Saints.
Bears and Browns also both minus 110. So you could take your pick here. People are so stinking high on the Browns right now.
It's like
unbelievable.
I forget where I heard it, and I'm gonna feel really bad for not giving credit. But the Browns are like the Golden State Warriors without the wins.
Oh, I said
right.
that.
They have all the. You didn't say that. They have all the talent in the world in these pieces like Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, right? The Baker Mayfield, but they haven't necessarily Odell. And they haven't done it yet. Chicago, again, has yet to get to where they should be, but they're pretty darn close. Matt Nagy, we want to see what this offense is now, again, with 2 years under his belt with Mitch Trubisky. Is he a top 15,
Chicago's
top
in the
16
NFC Championship game, right, if they make that field goal?
Right, exactly. And this is a tough division. I get it. The AFC North is a tough division. But the Browns got to show me first. And so I'm going to go with Chicago here. I just think that defense is strong. That pass rush is strong. I think David Montgomery gives them a dynamic full to that offense that they didn't have with Jordan Howard last or even Tariq Cohen. So I'm going to say Chicago here.
All right, Packers or Cowboys. I feel like this one's kind of easy.
Oh, what do you say, Jessie?
Packers, come on.
Oh, Packers, come on.
No. Cowboys.
No.
All right, Reed, go ahead and tell me why it's Cowboys.
So both of these teams, again, we talked about it in the first segment that both of these teams, Jessie is shaking her head off camera here. I'm just going to agree with Jessie. No, both of these teams are public when it comes to the betting market. I'd say the better value is the Cowboys at plus 100. Again, you're taking that public sentiment of the Cowboys being a very public team, but there's still a lot of unknown, right? There's still a lot of unknown, and if Zeke holds out for the first 3 or 4 games, what have you.
And then they're going to ask Dak to throw the ball 30, 40 times. He can't do that.
They have a strong offensive line, but they're a little more unknowns. And if things fall the right way for Green Bay, they'd have lost a lot of 50-50 games last year. Aaron Rodgers was hurt pretty much beginning of the season, so he was limping around.
Week 1.
Yeah, so he was limping around. They have they have a new coach. That remains to be seen on what he's going to be able to do. I'm going to say Cowboys at plus 100 is a better value, but Green Bay is a better team.
Interesting. So, yes, he's taking the better bet, which I agreed on. Great. Patriots minus 159 or Chiefs plus 130. Who in this head-to-head matchup will have the most regular season wins?
Thank you.
I'm going to say the Patriots. They have one of the easiest schedules per football schedules,
what did I say?
FB schedules.
Did I say something? What did I say?
Patriots or Chiefs?
Patriots or Chiefs. Okay, sorry. Our producer just got in my ear and said Chiefs, and I didn't know if I said the wrong thing.
Did he say
Tom
the wrong?
Reggia, stop talking to me in my ear when we're doing a show.
So I'm going to say Patriots before this show gets too much off the rails here at minus 159. Look, the Chiefs are great, but Patriots haven't had less than double-digit wins since 2002.
That's
it's insane. And look, the Chiefs are a great team, and they can really attack you with any part of that offense. That defense is getting a little bit better, but they lose some spots on defense. New England lost their defensive coordinator. They don't really have a lot of stars on defense. Gronk is gone. Sony Michel has an arthritic knee, sort of. Josh Gordon is going to get reinstated, but we don't know. And they're still at minus 159. So what does that say about the Patriots?
It means they have the same damn piece under center that they've had for 2 decades, and that's Tom frickin' Brady.
So until it remains, the Chiefs, all of a sudden, they have a great coaching staff. Andy Reid is fantastic. We know what he's been able to do with this team. But until the
Except
Patriots,
when it comes to time management, right? Isn't he pretty bad at time management?
Patriots have just done it for so long, and I'm just going to go with them just because of their schedule really easy. AFC West with the Chargers, the Raiders and the Broncos, they always play each other extremely hard, and so the Chiefs could lose some of those 50-50 games. And the Patriots,
they made some upgrades to their defense. The Chiefs did, right? But we because they were like 31st in passing yards allowed.
They lost their edge rushers. Houston is no longer there, right? D Ford is no longer there. But at the same time, look, they have the best offense. They have the best offense in football. They can score at a moment's notice. But the Patriots, man, they just do it, and they're in the easiest division, have one of the easiest schedules in football next year. So, Patriots.
Okay, Reed, thank you very much for joining us on The Sweat. That's it for Reed. It's not it for the show.
10 more
MLB
minutes.
Chalk Report is coming up next with Steve Buchanan.
Happy Hump Day. I'm Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Just so we're clear, Jadeveon Clowney is technically a free agent. The star pass rusher has yet to sign the franchise tender with the Texans. If Clowney chooses not to sign what is roughly a $16 million tag, he'd miss out on $940,000 a week for every game he misses. Adam Schefter is reporting the latest. Miami Dolphins are interested in trading for Clowney, and the team, including head coach Brian Flores, recently met with the three-time Pro Bowler, but it all goes back to that lingering unsigned franchise tag. The Texans can't trade Clowney until he signs the tag, and if Clowney doesn't want to be a Dolphin, which has been rumored, he can simply not sign the tag, play the waiting game, not play. A lot of cash to leave on the table, so it'd be surprising if Clowney doesn't give in. See Le'Veon Bell last year, though. Players have shown they'll sacrifice 1 year of significant dough for a long-term deal in the future.
Welcome back to The Sweat. Jessie and Emerson still here.
Yeah, sorry.
Steve Buchanan has joined us again for MLB Chalk Report. So which players will be chalk at the following positions? And then also, do you have to eat said chalk? So go ahead.
Pitcher.
Yeah, so, wonderful intro. Thank you for that.
She hates me so much.
So I'm gonna go with Max Scherzer here. I think Scherzer is the obvious answer here because he's going up against the Baltimore Orioles. The only reason why I think it's okay not to eat this chalk here is because there was a report that came out after his start against the Pirates where he returned off the injured list that he's still not actually completely healthy from his back injury that's put him on the IL. So what they're saying is he's actually not able to throw at 100%, which is not something you really want to hear. Not great.
Do you think Garion knew this news before he made him his stud in his DK cheat sheet about top targets?
I kind of like Garion, so I'm going to say he probably did know that. And look, matchup-wise, you can't get a better matchup than going up against the Orioles, who are by far one of the worst offenses in the league. So on a normal basis, if Scherzer was completely healthy, then yes, of course you would use Max Scherzer against the Orioles. I'm not personally going for that because, like I said, they're saying he's still not completely healthy, and if you're paying $11,000 for a guy, I don't want to worry about if he's going to have an innings cap or any type of pitch count. We haven't seen anything like that, but when you see some of the other guys that are on the slate here, we have Garrett Cole going, Noah Syndergaard, Jake Odorizzi. There's a lot of other options that you can go to that I feel okay pivoting away from Scherzer. He could very well go out and post 40 DK fantasy points, and everyone's going to go, hey, let's rewind that portion of the sweat where that idiot came on and said to fade Max Scherzer. That would be me. That's okay. We're on the internet. I just won't ever come out of hiding, so it is what it is.
You can say anything you
what
want,
about
buddy.
first base? Who's going to be chalky? Do you have to eat that chalk?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be Carlos Santana here. I think the Indians are going to be very, very popular going up against Jordan Zimmerman, and rightfully so. We talked about him earlier in the show, just how bad he pitches at Comerica Park, and then you see what Santana and really the whole Indians team has been doing as of late. Even with the loss of Jose Ramirez, this is still an absolutely prolific offense to stack on a nightly basis. So with someone like Jordan Zimmerman, who has been struggling as much as he has at home, I think Santana is a fine option here. Mitch Moreland is probably going to be also high up there as well. We talked about obviously playing at Coors Field, going against Peter Lambert. Mitch Moreland being a lefty also is helpful because he's done very well against righties, but he's very expensive at $5,300. So I think Moreland and Santana are going to be the chalky options here at first base. No issues going with the chalk at first base.
All right, shortstop. Oh, it's got to be Trey Turner, right? Is he going to be the chalky dude tonight?
Trey Turner. Why did you land on Trey Turner?
Because he's just reading an article on the playbook. And
Whose article?
I need to act like I know what I'm talking about.
So he was like, gotta be him.
It's
man.
Garian's article again. Which, did you see?
It's gotta be Trey Turner, right? Oh my God, bro.
Dude, I'm studying.
Is it, bro?
Go ahead.
It's definitely not Trey Turner for me, at least.
All right, well, tell me who you think.
It's Xander Bogaerts.
Oh, X-Man.
Like,
baby.
I would think you would, being a resident Red Sox fan, that you kind of would have
They are my
made that
favorite team
connection.
now. They are my favorite team.
Are they usually not your favorite team?
Yeah, they've been my favorite team for 4 years since I've moved up here.
Wow.
That's an allegiance I want to have. But no, Xander Bogaerts again in Coors Field. I don't think I can say over and over enough how poor Peter Lambert has been, especially at Coors Field. I mean, granted, you're not expecting anybody to be doing well at Coors Field, but Xander Bogaerts has been doing extremely well against right-handed pitching. We don't expect Peter Lambert to be in this game very long, which is fine because you look at what the Rockies bullpen has done at home, and it has been #not good. So obviously there's plenty of opportunities for the Red Sox to pile on the offense, to pile on the runs. I think they're touching knees again over here. So there's a lot of opportunities.
We have not touched.
Good, I'm glad. But there's a lot of opportunities for the Red Sox to pile on the offense here in this game at Coors Field. So I think Xander Bogaerts is a chalk.
Real quick before you get to outfield, is Xander the Red Sox MVP this season, or is it Raffy?
I think it has to be Raffy. I think. Here's the thing, like when you think about who has been a bigger part of this team, Devers comes to mind first, and I think
especially like the last month, dude.
Well, it's come out of left field, and it's also that his fielding has been much better. That was always like the biggest detriment to his game, the early part of his game, is that he was a liability in the field. We haven't seen that as much, almost like from June on. Like it kind of started off in the year that he was having his fielding issues, but it's really improved so much, and just his opposite field power, like he's smashing lefties over the green monster, like with ridiculous power here. So if Devers wasn't having the year that he was, I think Bogaerts would be the easy answer. But with everything Devers has done, I think he's definitely the MVP.
And I think some of Xander's success, I think it does coincide with him getting the contract in the beginning of the year, so it's not even weighing on him. That's why I think Betts isn't having the MVP caliber season they did last year, because all he's thinking about is his damn contract and how much money he wants, and he's still got another year. He's got to deal with that crap before he hits free agency.
No, definitely. And and that's going to be a big thing for the Red Sox this offseason too, is if they're going to keep Mookie Betts or not, because if there's ever a time...
You got to trade him now if you want to get value. If you see any sign that he doesn't want to stay here, you got to do something now.
And with the way their pitching staff is constructed right now, like who knows who's going to get out of Chris Sale. They have no money to give, and they have no prospects to trade. Yeah. So if there was ever a time that Mookie Betts has been more valuable to other teams, this would be the time to trade him. I don't want to see that happen, but it would make complete business sense to ship Mookie out of town.
See, bro, it's my favorite team, dog. Oh God.
Yeah, let's.
All right. Okay. I'll see you later.
All right, let's move on to
we have one more
outfielders.
Question.
Well, we have two more because we're going to do slate approved. So outfielders, who's going to be chalky?
I think without a doubt it's going to be Nelson Cruz. Anytime you get Nelson Cruz against a lefty, I mean, that's just a matchup you want to take advantage of. We always talk about how Tom Brady's going to play until his 40s. I hope Nelson Cruz plays until his 50s. The guy's like 37 years old. He's still absolutely mashing lefties, righties. It doesn't matter. But against lefties, 451 WOBA, 489 isolated power against lefties, which is one of the highest in the league. And then just that whole Twins offense, like the whole Twins offense clicks against lefties. We talked about that. They're in such a good matchup here tonight. So I think Nelson Cruz is definitely the chalk option here. Juan Soto's another one that I wouldn't be surprised is chalky as well. I'm not even going to bother saying the Orioles pitcher's name. We'll just call him Waj.
It doesn't even matter. It's the Orioles, dude.
It's the MLB version of a Waj bomb. But he's been really poor against lefties as well. Juan Soto batting. Cleanup for the Nationals tonight. Just a tier below. 5,500 for Cruz. 5,300 for Juan Soto. I think both of those guys are going to be very, very popular options for tonight.
Okay, we got a couple minutes left here. Lineups lock in 7 minutes and 43 seconds and counting. So who was your slate approved pick? Who do people watching right now need to go in and make sure is in their lineup tonight?
I love Juan Soto. I wrote it up on the cheat sheet, which I'm a little disappointed you didn't bring up, that you read that I wrote up Juan Soto.
Because Jessie already mentioned it. We read it together.
Oh, okay. All right, well, my bad. Juan Soto, like I said, I just think is in such a great spot, too. I think his ownership is going to be a little below Nelson Cruz, but he's going to be up there in ownership. And then you also mentioned during the break that Jock Peterson was scratched.
Yeah, Jock Peterson scratched. As is Mike Trout. We had a whole Mike Trout question all built out that our producer wrote up, and it just all that hard work went to waste because he is not in the lineup tonight.
Right, so we definitely don't want to take Jock Peterson, which is too bad, too, because Peterson hit a home run last night. He's one of the streakiest players in baseball. Like, he's one of those guys that can. I mean, we saw him in the home run derby. Like, it went absolutely ham. I know you guys were very in tune with the home run derby.
I loved it. I sat there and watched Vlad Guerrero Jr. hit a freaking bajillion home runs, and he didn't end up winning.
I have a question for you, though.
Okay.
You said second base is a place where you're, didn't want to pay up that much.
Yep.
Is that in part to differentiate yourself in this lineup, or is that not really important on an 11-game slate?
Look at you.
That is a very good question.
Oh, my gosh.
But you came up with it by yourself, too. Good job.
I did.
Dude.
I think that with second base tonight, I think that there's a lot more value on the lower tier guys and the higher ones. Like, some of the matchups aren't as great, too. Like Jose Altuve against Ryan Yarbrough. He's actually been a lot better away from Tampa than he has been at home. Jeff McNeil's really expensive, too. Even though Kyle Hendricks is not someone we use on a normal fantasy, he's not like a fantasy goodness player, but he does enough that it can stop opposing teams. So Jeff McNeil, I'm not too crazy about. Then Brock Holt's all of a sudden, like, super expensive, and
yeah,
I don't know why you're going to play out for Brock.
Great guy, love him because he's part of my favorite team. But all right, so we have like 45 seconds. My producer thought the question you just asked was great.
Yeah.
I've got a good one. Who's a home run lock
We have
for you
45
tonight?
seconds. So
home run lock for tonight.
Just give me someone who's going to go yard.
Juan Soto.
Juan Soto. Oh wow!
I wrote him up, and then Nelson Cruz, and that's it.
Tom, do you want to tell me in my ear that was a good question?
No. Stop talking to the
question.
producer.
It's fine. We get them involved.
No, the people watching can't.
They can
only hear the. No, they can't.
I can't hear him either.
It's one-sided.
All right, it's been a great show then.
All right, yeah, it has been a great show. This show will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. The Sweat. We probably won't be in the pod studio, but we might be. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Reed. Really great show. We'll see you at 6.